Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm returning to Commander the Great War. I think this is part 17 or 18, somewhere in there, of my series of Commander the Great War. You can see here the Western Front is pretty darn stagnant at the moment, with the French occupying almost the entire front line. Just one British unit just to the south of Verdun. As you can see here, the Italian front is wide open with lots of gaps in the line. The British have a unit cut off at just taking Zagreb, an army unit, hopefully, so we definitely want to look at destroying that. Meanwhile, on the front with the Russians, it's a multi-eclectic or something. I don't know. The Austrian Empire, as diverse and cultural as it is, with Slovakian soldiers, Czech soldiers, Austrian soldiers, Hungarian soldiers, Bosnian soldiers. They have all these different ethnic groups in their armies. In addition to that, you've also got them fighting next to Bulgarians and Ottomans as well on that front line. And we've got a Russian army unit here cut off, hopefully about to be destroyed. Meanwhile, the front here seems to have at least stabilized somewhat. The Romanian front hasn't officially broken out yet, but the Romanian government is bound to enter the war here within a couple of turns. Maybe not this video, but probably the next. And then if we go over to the front in the Caucasus, we'll see here that the Ottoman Empire is continuing its advance into the heart of Russia, just having surrounded this Russian unit. That should be destroyed next turn. We just took Dnipropetrovsk, or whatever it's called, which I believe is the same city as Donetsk, where a lot of the civil war in Ukraine is going on right now. Meanwhile, we are threatening as well to cut off Sevastopol and the Russian naval base there, hopefully liberating that from the clutches of the Russian Empire and returning it to the Ottoman Empire, which I think had it several hundred years before this. The Caucasus as a whole is entirely in the control of the Ottoman Empire. The Sinai, meanwhile, is still bottling up British forces there. So as you can see here, the Central Powers continue to advance through the Caucasus in the direction of... I'm not sure if I want to drive north toward Moscow yet, or if maybe I want to drive west toward Romania and the Russian armies there. We'll see. I think that would be way too far extended, because we'd have this entire area which would have... we've already got a lot of vulnerabilities. There's basically no units anywhere in here or here. We've got huge gaps, no contiguous front line. Only in our main thrust area do we have a pretty good concentration of forces. So... it's a risk with whatever we do. I mean, if we advance on Moscow, we're going to leave our flanks awfully exposed to any kind of counterattack from the west. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what we should do. I think the best course of action is probably to drive on Sevastopol, and I think that now because even if the Russians counter and cut us off, we'll be able to bring in sea supplies via sea, as we'll control the Black Sea if we can take the city there. Plus, it brings us closer toward Romania, so if the Russians, are going to bring troops away, there'll probably be a more plausible chance that they'll pull troops from the front lines here in the west. Meanwhile, on the Berlin front, while the front is stabilized somewhat, the Russians still occupy all of eastern Prussia, with the exception of Königsberg there, which is surrounded. I'm surprised the Russians haven't tried to reduce Königsberg yet, as that would free up 3 full army units and a garrison unit to really fill in this front line here and put pressure on Berlin again. But alas, they haven't, and that's good for us. And that's pretty much the situation here in July of... okay... anyway, weird update. Not sure what that was all about. July of 1916. We're about halfway through the game's turns, and so far no sign of America joining the war on the central or on the Allied side. Good news for us. Hopefully they don't. But yeah. So that's where we are. Let's go ahead and end the turn. More naval war going on here in the Baltic. What just happened? Whose battle fleet is that? They just destroy a battleship of ours? What just happened? No! Ugh, crap. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, while we're... why does it seem like the Russians always attack and inflict horrible casualties on us? You can see here the Russians are... actually, all the Western allies are really shifting around their front lines here quite a bit. Several attacks here along the Western Front. I have no artillery in the Western Front, really. German artillery has been badly beaten up here. As you can see, our merchant ships are trying to make it through the channel yet again, and that was a pretty quick turn. Did we just lose a battleship? Is that a British? Oh, wait, no, that's our ship. I'm confused. I thought we just lost something at sea. But I guess we didn't. Good, that's our navy. Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, good. Alright, now we can hopefully destroy this British submarine. There we go. Another British naval unit destroyed. That's always nice to see. Meanwhile, the Russians pulling back, perhaps? Pulling back toward Prague, maybe trying to... well, I'm not sure what they're trying to do. But that's good for us, as they've more or less abandoned the front near Moscow. Alright, so we'll use our artillery here to bombard that unit. Oh, I should have used my... shoot. Well, we badly beat up that Russian army unit. We didn't destroy it, but again, good to see. So maybe we're ready for a counterattack. I'm not sure where all those Russian troops are going, but either way, that's good for us here, as the Russians may be pulling back a bit. And you can see there we finished destroying that Russian army unit. We'll advance north from Vienna just slightly here. Pressure lifted off Leipzig. Maybe the Russians are trying to shorten their front. Maybe they're trying to respond to the Ottomans. I'm not sure exactly what the goal is at this point. You can see here these Russian soldiers are now cut off. We'll bombard them with artillery and finish them off with infantry. Another unit destroyed. So the Russians have an army unit at Sevastopol. That could be a tough nut to crack, definitely. Ah! And a Russian army unit at Karakov. So let's reinforce them, because they're going to need everything they can get. Alright, so I don't know if we have the manpower. I mean, we could probably maneuver around and cut off Karakov. But Ottoman offensive here into the west may be at the max of what it can accomplish. Diplomacy showing here Romania will be at war here any time. We've got an Austrian unit ready and a German unit ready soon. So again, you can see here the front with Romania is, well, they're going to be a thorn in our side, a pretty substantial one, but I guess we'll have to see. Question is, if we can drive the Russians back toward Krakow, Przemysl, and Lemberg, we might be able to shift some of these forces to deal with the Russian menace. Probably menace would be more accurate. I don't think we have any additional forces to deploy here, so we can take that one territory. So I think we'll just stick with things as they are. We'll shift our artillery a bit so we can use it in any attack on the Russian left flank here, which looks a little bit exposed. And there you have it. Meanwhile, this unit's taking a beating as it continues to try and keep these guys cut off. Zagreb is looking like it's about to fall. I think we'll pull these Austrian troops back a bit. It will mean losing our hold on the, driving a wedge between the French and the British in Venice and Trieste, but might be necessary. I think I saw the French shifting some troops to the west here, so we need to be prepared for that. I don't think that's too much of a risk. I mean, they certainly could cut us off here. Maybe we should. I don't know. I just advanced that Austrian unit a bit into Italy just to kind of test things out and see if there were any troops up there. I didn't see any. I don't know if... I think they'd be pretty hard-pressed to cut that unit off, so we'll leave that as is. Meanwhile... not what I wanted. I didn't want to lose 2-0. Darn! I was hoping to get a 1-to-1 exchange. That would have been favorable for us, but it didn't work out that way. Reinforcements galore. And... yeah, Bulgarians don't have enough for a new unit, so we'll use that. I think that's just about it for our turn here. Upgrade that unit. Austrians have 15 production points, so I suppose we can throw that into... I don't think there's any Austrian units that need to be reinforced right now, so we'll go ahead and throw that into production. Oh wait, we've got an Austrian unit to deploy here. Not sure where the best spot is for these guys. Maybe on the Romanian border? They can always be railed here north if that is a threat, so we'll put them on the Romanian border. Again, my plan is once Romania goes to war, I'm just going to try and launch multiple units in here to cut off Bucharest and hopefully isolate and destroy as many units as I can as quickly as I can. I'm not sure where... I'm guessing the rest of the Russian army, the 4 units that were here, 2 of them are here. I don't know where the other 2 full army units went. One of them actually was right here, I think. So we're still missing 1 Russian unit there. Continue bombarding that unit just for good measure. But yeah, production. So back to the Austrians. I think we'll go ahead and produce a garrison unit there. I think that's all we can really afford. 50, 10, 20, 28. We could afford an armored car. But the front really isn't mobile enough to need that right now. And that's really all that we would need with that. So we'll raise that unit. Meanwhile, we'll bring this sub over this way. Mainly as intelligence here for the Ottomans. Guessing there's probably a garrison unit in Kerch and an army unit in Sevastopol, so if we can destroy another Russian army unit, that'll be nice. I don't know how supply works by sea. I'm guessing these guys can't be cut off, so I'll probably have to bring the artillery in and just hammer them and take casualties. Unless I can take Odessa. I'm thinking if I take all their ports, they may not be able to supply them, but I'm not sure how in-depth the game goes for supply in that regard. I think that's about it. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and end this turn here on that. Well, do we want to... I think we can still bombard with these guys. Let's do that. All right, so there we go. That'll end the turn. We'll go into late July now of 1916 here. You can see there's a British merchant ship in the Mediterranean, or maybe a troop transport. I'm not sure, but either way, maybe we can hit it with our sub. Maybe not. We'll see. While we're waiting on this turn, though, I was reading I mentioned him last time. John Schindler, I think is his last name. Holy crap. The French just bombed the hell out of that unit. Oh my god, they have a ton of air units. Well, that unit's toast. Ah! They just advanced and destroyed my cavalry unit. No! Stupid Russians. No, I don't even know if I can cut... Well, actually... Them abandoning Sevastopol could be a good thing. I guess we'll see. Anyway, as I was saying, just read another post here. It was in reference to the sanctions on Russia, which I mentioned that Schindler, John, as I mentioned in the previous one, because I didn't know his last name, but same author as I was talking about before. He definitely has a political agenda in his writings. However, with that being said, interesting point, which makes a lot of sense that I had not seen brought up yet, is that the sanctions that Russia's enduring could be pretty fairly compared to the sanctions the U.S. put on Japan after its invasion of China. A commander was wounded in battle. Who was wounded? It doesn't say who was wounded. Anyway, so definitely, probably the commander of that cavalry unit. I think that was Pasha or something like that. Crud. So... I don't know what I want to do. Do I really want to waste time attacking that unit? Ooh. Yeah, okay. Good. Alright, so hopefully the Russians are cut off now. Maybe. Just maybe. I'm hoping. I'd love for them to stay in that advanced position, though, on the edge of the Crimea, though. That would make them much more vulnerable. 1 to 3 turns for the Romanians, so it could be any turn now. That's pretty unnerving. The Russians appear to be in the midst of a general withdrawal, though. So we'll cut them off in Prague. And... Alright, so we'll destroy that unit. Not sure where their front is. These Bulgarians again? Yeah. Anyway, so... Probably want to put 1 unit in Vienna just as a safeguard, I'm guessing. Kind of confused. Again, the Russians just appear to pull them. Well, goodness, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Alright, first of all, let's finish these frickers. Let's finish these guys off. Okay, so they're done. Good. Now, Trieste is apparently cut off. And I don't know why the Italian Navy has abandoned Trieste, but they have. So that's good. So it just says it's a merchant convoy, so that's interesting. We can't really rail these guys anywhere. We can just kind of reinforce them. So that French unit's now cut off and surrounded. Granted, I did just expose that army unit to being cut off. Shifting some of my troops around, perhaps in questionable moves here by me, perhaps. But we've got a French unit surrounded here. I don't want to let this guy get cut off. Certainly still could, but we'll see. Meanwhile, apparently we have the French cut off at Trieste, so we could definitely retake that city, which would be good. We destroyed the British unit in Zagreb, so that's great. The Western Front's a little bit more dicey. We've got this unit, which is more or less dead. I might be able to pull some German reserves out, although I did probably foolishly advance a lot of them. I don't know if any of these guys can move by rail. These guys already moved. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Crap. Do we pull out or do we stay? We can repair them, but not very much. And I don't want to get them destroyed, so we're going to pull them out to Brussels. And we'll sit them in Brussels and reinforce them. Reinforce these guys as well. We could shift these guys north. Shouldn't have used that reinforcement. I should have... what do I do? These guys are so dug in. It's ridiculous. I don't think they can move past my unit there and take Antwerp. I just don't think they can. And if they do, it's a core unit. So I think that's a sensible relocation of forces, although I didn't want to abandon those trenches and blockhouses. I think it makes sense at this stage. And actually, I might be able to rail someone in from somewhere. No. I should have brought one of these units in. They're all worn out. Guess not. We'll wait to attack Prague till next turn. And then we'll liberate the city. Well, actually, we could probably move the artillery unit there, although that would be probably foolish. I don't know what I want to do. Move these guys by rail. Anyway, so we've got a general German advance here on the Eastern Front as I ponder what the next step is. The Russians seem to be pulling out for one reason or another, and that's going to be good for us. Zagreb is retaken, which is good for the Austrians. Trieste looks poised to fall as well, unless the Italian Navy randomly shows back up. I don't get what they're doing. I'm confused. So just weaken that battleship because the French Navy's pulled out to go here, which makes me really nervous that they're up to something and planning on landing somewhere. Ottomans. Where are we at? Okay, so we're going to reinforce you guys. And you guys. And you guys, because you all definitely need to be reinforced. If you're going to be dealing with a lot of Russian troops soon, which I'm worried you may. Pretty much does it for what we can reinforce for them. We'll see here. What can we do with the Germans? These guys definitely... We already reinforced the one. Yeah, we already reinforced our west front. So we could potentially pull some of these guys out and deploy them to the western front. That may be necessary, and if that's the case, great, that's fine. We can do that. Now that the Russians are pulling back, we can probably afford to take one of these units off the front line. Reinforcing those guys. There we have it. So the Romanians may join the Allies here next turn. We'll play through one more turn here before we end the video. But anyway, as I was saying here before, I was so rudely interrupted by needing to do my turn. The interesting comparison that John Schindler was making is that, and I could be pronouncing his name wrong, essentially that the American embargo against the Japanese as a result of their invasion of China is not so different from the American embargo against the Russians for their actions in Ukraine, and that it's a dangerous situation to kind of be reporting gleefully that you're destroying your rival's economy through embargoes and whatnot, because you certainly could lead the country that you're embargoing into a situation where they feel that they have to act even more aggressively than they did previously in order to ensure their survival. So you may not accomplish what you want to accomplish by way of sanction. You may actually lead yourself into a more dangerous situation. He wasn't suggesting that war was inevitable by any stretch. That was not his point, but mainly saying that, you know, you may be inviting a less than desirable result. You may be escalating the situation further without even intending to or realizing that that's what you're doing by launching trade wars, essentially. Which I think is a valid concern. You know, it's definitely crap. Definitely a risk. The Allies are certainly on the move here, though, so a bit concerning at this point. As one of the first aces of the war, Balak is regarded by many as the father of air combat, concerned with fighter tactics based upon aircraft formation rather than upon the characteristics of any individual machine. He formalizes these rules of air fighting in the something. I can't read that. Okay, so we just got a new leader. Because they had some troop transports around here, so yeah, so we lost Antwerp again, which we lost before. The Allies are growing increasingly bold with their offensives and air support, which is concerning. Maybe I should pull back to a Brussels line to shorten my line even further. That might not be a bad idea, but too late for that this turn. The French are now cut off, so we've retaken Trento. Yay for us. French unit destroyed. Meanwhile, the French have evacuated Trieste as a way to essentially get their... Why am I trying to bombard an empty... Okay, I don't know why I did that. That seemed silly. Anyway, so bombarded an empty hex. But in pulling out, they also left themselves vulnerable, so we ended up destroying another French unit. So 2 French units gone this turn, which is, again, good for us. Venice is in danger of being surrounded. I don't know what else the Allies have in this area. So we'll do that. I think we're going to have to pull these guys back out toward the Romanian front, since we're not really sure what's going to go on there. Meanwhile, the Russians continue their withdrawal on the eastern front, interestingly enough. We can use our Zeppelin to bombard them. They're already cut off. So hopefully we'll have some success against them in trying to reduce these guys. Lost more men than I would like. Like, where the heck are the Russian soldiers? What is going on? Believe me, I'm in no way complaining, but seriously, this is a little bit concerning. They've just more or less vanished. Actually, since the French seem to be willingly lengthening their lines or shortening their lines or something. This massive group of French and British air units, though, is causing a problem. It's making the Allied attacks much more successful and more difficult to deal with. So we'll have to figure out something about that. Just lost probably way more than I should have willingly lost here in that attack on this Russian unit here on the flank. If we can destroy this, though, we've got several garrison units. We may be able to roll up the Russian flank here in Przemysl. Meanwhile, the Ottoman forces near Krakow are a little bit exposed. We have cut the Russian force off here, so that is definitely what I wanted to do. So the Russians are now surrounded here on the Crimean Peninsula, which is good. We can potentially destroy another Russian unit, take some more Russian cities, and free these guys up for the drive on Krakow. As we are now just 0 to 1 turn away from the Romanian declaration of war. So that'll happen pretty much next turn. We're going to advance with all these units toward Ered. Hopefully it's not heavily armed. I'm not sure how many troops the Romanians are going to have, where exactly they're going to be located. They could certainly pose a risk to the flank of our Austrian army. We may have to pull back and significantly reshape our army here, but I don't want to do that unless I have to. And I'd like to try and take Bucharest, which is one of two Romanian capitals. It looks like they've got a capital in Isis as well. I believe Bucharest is the capital of the Romanian country, kingdom, whatever it is at this stage in time. But this is probably a fallback capital like Serbia had Belgrade at the front, but then they had Sofia in the rear. Meanwhile, we can bring naval units up to bombard Venice next turn, hopefully allowing us to take that city, and driving deep into the heart of Italy is my main goal. Should maybe pull some of these troops that are putting a lot of pressure on my my west front away as I try and get these guys dug in. Anyway, so that's where we are right now. Some new developments in the east, a little bit concerning. Not sure what the end result of it will be. Bring the Ottoman troops up here, and we've got to go ahead and deploy some troops. So we've got some Austrian troops we can deploy. I guess we'll deploy them over here to protect our flank from the inevitable enemy attack there. These guys are good to reinforce, so that's good. We'll put these guys on a rail line, so we'll move them to Bucharest kind of as a little form up a reserve and also be able to kind of shift where we need to. Trying to wrap myself around the Russian line here, but again, I'm operating with a large degree of uncertainty about where exactly where exactly the Russian Navy is. We'll pull these artillery units out here so they can provide some support, hopefully to an eventual goal of retaking Antwerp. Hard to tell at this point. Anyway, so that's gonna about do it. Thanks for tuning in for this episode of I can't even remember the game. I'm playing Commander of the Great War. Thanks, guys. We've relieved the pressure on Berlin for a time. The German armies in the east are advancing pretty frantically. The Russians have pulled back substantially, and I don't know if it's political unrest in Russia, if it's a recognition of the threat that the Ottomans are now posing now that they've broken out of the Caucasus. I'm not sure. We'll see. Hopefully these Russian troops stay here and are totally out of supply next turn so we can easily reduce another Russian army and destroy them and, have an impact on national morale. But until next time, guys, thanks for watching. This is the Historical Gamer signing out.